Yo, what's up guys? Power Punch here. Today, I'm showing you all the commands for Minecraft Java. So here are all the lists. Also, please subscribe guys. Please like and subscribe because I'm really close to 5,000 subscribers. So it'd mean a lot if you guys could subscribe. Anyways, here's all the lists for all the commands. So the first command is /advancement. It gives, removes, or checks a player's advancement. For example, if I do /advancement grant at self everything, it'll give me all the advancements. The next command is /attribute. It adds, removes, or sets an entity attribute. For example, if I type /attribute at self scale base set 2, for example, it'll make my attribute scale bigger. So the next command is /ban. So what /ban does is if you type a user by their username, it'll ban a player. The next command is /ban IP. It adds an IP address to the banned list. So if I do /ban IP, and then I type power punch, then I will get IP banned. The next command is /ban list. So what /ban list does is it displays the ban list. So if I do /ban list players, it will say all the players that are banned. The next command is /bossbar. So what /bossbar does is it creates and modifies boss bars. So if I do /bossbar add, I'm just gonna give it a random ID called power punch, and then I name it power punch like this. It'll add a custom boss bar that's called power punch. The next command is /clear. So what /clear does is it clears a player. So if I do /clear at self, it clears my inventory. The next command is /clone. It copies blocks from one place to another. For example, we do /clone, and then let me find my coordinates here. Wait. Okay. If I do my coordinates like 35, -60, and then 14, and then if I go here and I do these coordinates here, and then I just type where I'm at right now, like this, it'll just clone all of those blocks over there. The next command is /damage. So what /damage does is if I do /damage at self, and then I type an amount, and then I type like a type of damage that I should take, like an arrow, it'll make me take damage. So what the command does is it applies damage to the specific entities that you want to damage with the command. The next command is /data. So what /data does is it gets, merges, modifies, and removes block entities and entity NBT data. So basically, if I do /data get entity at self, it'll say my entity data. The next command is /datapack. So if I do /datapack, it controls loaded data packs. So if I do /datapack over here, enable, it'll enable a data pack. However, I don't have data packs in here, so I can't really activate data packs or enable them. The next command is /debug. A debug command starts or stops a debugging section. So I would do /debug stop, then the debug will stop. However, I don't really have any bugs here, so I can't really do this command. The next command is /default game mode. So if I do /default game mode, for example, if I do creative, then the default game mode is now creative. The next command is /deop. So what it does is it revokes an operator status from a player. So if I do /deop, it removes a player's operator status. Since this is not a server, I can't do /deop. The next command is /difficulty. It sets the difficulty level. So I do /difficulty easy, then the difficulty is now easy. If I do /difficulty hard, then the game mode will be hard. I mean, the difficulty will be hard. The next command is /effect. So if I do /effect, give at self strength infinite, and then just some random stuff. Then I'll get the strength effect. So what this command does, it adds or removes a status effect. The next command is /enchant. So I do /enchant at self sharpness. Then I gave my sword a sharpness here. The next command is /execute. So an execute command executes another command. So for example, if we do /execute at self run, I can type any command. The next command is /experience. So what /experience does is it gives XP to players. So if I do /experience at self, for example, if I do 10 levels, it'll give me 10 levels of experience. The next command is /fill. So if I do /fill, wait, let me get my coordinates. If I do /fill a first coordinate, and then find a second coordinate, like over here, and then I type a second coordinate, and then I just type, for example, if I type stone, it'll fill the entire area where I wanted to fill it in. The next command is /fill biome. So if I do /fill biome coordinates, a first coordinate and a second coordinate, and then for example, if I want to turn something into like a beach, I have to replace another biome, like plains, for example, and it'll replace the biome with another biome. However, this is a plain world, I mean a flat world, so I can't use this command. The next command is /force load. So if I do /force load, add coordinates, and then another coordinates, it'll force chunks to constantly be loaded or not. So yeah, this is how this command works. The next command is /function. It runs a function. For example, if I do function and then a random name, then it'll run a function. However, I have no functions in this world, so functions won't work. The next command is /game mode. If I do /game mode survival, it'll turn me into survival. The next command is /game rule. If I do /game rule, if I do daylight cycle true, then the daylight cycle game rule will be true. The next command is /give. If I do /give at self diamonds, like if I do diamonds and then I do 64, I'll get 64 diamonds. The next command is /help. It gives a help for commands. For example, if I do /help, it'll list all the commands. The next command is /item. So it manipulates items in inventories. However, I don't have anything in my inventory, so I can't manipulate my own items. The next command is /jrf. So if I do /jrf stop or start, then it'll start profiling. But if I do stop, then it'll stop profiling. The next command is slash kick. So if I do slash kick at self, it'll kick a player. So if I do this, it'll kick myself. However, this is a single player world, so I can't kick myself. The next command is slash kill. If I do slash kill at self, it'll kill myself. What this command does is it kills entities. So if I do slash kill at self, I will get killed. The next command is slash list. So if I do slash list, it will list all the players that are online. The next command is slash locate. If I do slash locate by planes, it'll locate the closest planes. The next command is slash loot. It drops items from an inventory slot onto the ground. However, since this is a plain world, I can't really do this. The next command is slash me. It displays a message about the sender. For example, if you do slash me, hi, it'll say hi. This next command is slash msg. So what this does is it displays a private message to a person. If I do slash msg at self and then hi, it'll just whisper to myself a message called hi. So you can whisper it to people. The next command is slash op. It gives a player operator. For example, if I do slash op at itself, it'll give a player operator. However, this is a single player world, so this won't work. The next command is slash pardon. It removes entries from the ban list. However, this is a single player world, so slash pardon won't work. The next command is slash pardon IP. It removes entries from the ban list. However, this is a single player world, so I can't use slash pardon IP here. The next command is slash perf. It captures info and metrics about the game for 10 seconds. For example, if we do slash perf, it'll do it for 10 seconds. However, this is a single player world, so this won't work. The next command is slash place. It's used to place a configured feature, JSON template, or structure at a given location. So if I do slash place, structure, like if I do like an ancient city, for example, at this coordinate, it'll place that kind of template or structure. The next command is slash play sound. It plays a sound. For example, if I do slash play sound, and then I type Minecraft entity player blurb, and then I type this, and then add self, I'll hear the sound burp. So the next command is slash publish. It opens a single player world to a local network. So if I do slash publish true, then it'll let people join in the local network I have on. The next command is slash random. It draws a random value or control the random number sequence. For example, if I do this, it'll give a random person value. However, since I'm the only player here, and it requires a minimum amount of 2 players, this command won't work. The next command is slash recipe. It gives or takes players' recipes. So for example, if we do slash recipe, give at self, Minecraft and the cabot. I'm just gonna do this one. It'll give me a new recipe. However, since I already have the recipe, it doesn't really give me the recipe. The next command is slash reload. It reloads loot, tables, advancements, and function from disks. for example, if I do slash reload, it'll reload. However, there isn't really anything here, so it won't work. The next command is slash return. It controls the execution flow inside functions and changes their return value. For example, if I do slash return run, and then a command, it'll change the function, like it'll change the return value. The next command is slash ride. It's used to make entities ride on other entities, or stop entities from riding other entities. The next command is slash save all. So it saves the server to disk. For example, do slash save all. Oh wait, I just realized it's a single player world, so this command won't work on single player. The next command is slash save off. It disables automatic server saves. However, since this is a single player world, I can't use this command. The next command is slash save on. It enables automatic server saves. However, since this is a single player world, I can't use this command. The next command is slash say. If I do slash say, and then I type hi, it'll display a message to multiple players. The next command is slash schedule. It'll delay the execution of a function. The next command is slash scoreboard. A scoreboard manages scoreboard objectives and players. For example, if I do a slash scoreboard objectives, add money dummy, it'll add a money dummy. And if I do slash players display sidebar, oh wait, this is not Bedrock. But if I do slash players add self money 1, it'll add myself some money. The next command is slash seed. It will display the world seed. If I do slash seed, it will display the world seed. So right there at the bottom left is my world seed. The next command is slash set block. It sets a block at the coordinate you want. For example, if I do slash set block coordinate, and then if I type like bedrock, then a bedrock block will be placed at the coordinate that you want. The next command is slash set idle timeout. So if we do slash set idle timeout, and then I can set a time for whenever a player gets kicked. Like whenever a player is idle too long, I can set a time for them to get kicked. But since this is a single player world, I can't do that. The next command is slash set world spawn. If I do slash set world spawn coordinate, it'll set the world spawn to this coordinate I'm standing at. The next command is slash spawn point. So if I do slash spawn point at self coordinate, it'll set my spawn point here to the coordinate I'm standing at. The next command is slash spectate. It makes one player in spectator mode spectate an entity. For example, if I do slash spectate at self to myself, it'll make me spectate myself. However, you can't spectate yourself and there are no other players, so I can't really spectate anyone. The next command is slash spread players. It teleports entities to random locations. For example, if I do slash spread players coordinate, and then if I do like 2025 true, and then add self, it'll teleport me to like random places all the time. The next command is slash stop. It stops the server. However, since I'm not in the server, I can't really use slash stop. The next command is slash stop sound. It stops the sound. For example, if I do slash stop sound at self, it'll stop all sounds. However, since there are no sounds, it won't really work. The next command is slash summon. It summons an entity. For example, if we do slash summon horse, it'll summon a horse. The next command is slash tag. It gives a player or removes a player a tag. For example, if I do slash tag at self add blue, it'll give me a blue tag. And if I do slash tag at a, tag equals blue, add red, it'll add any player that's tag has blue, and it will give them a red tag if they have the blue tag. For example, since I have the blue tag, it gave me the red tag. The next command is slash team MSG. So what it does is like different teams can message their teammates. For example, if I do slash team message, hi, it'll send a message to my team. But since I'm not on a team, I can't send a team message. The next command is slash teleport. It teleports a player to a specific coordinate. For example, if I do slash teleport at self to like, for example, if I do 0, negative 60, 0, it'll teleport me to 0 coordinate. The next command is slash tel. It's similar to the message command. So where you do slash tel at self, message hi, it'll whisper and say a message like previously. The next command is slash tel raw. So what it does is it displays a message to players. For example, if I do slash tel raw at all, and then I type hi, I'll display the message hi to every player. The next command is slash time. It changes the time of the world. For example, if I do slash time set night, then it'll become nighttime. But if I do slash time set day, it'll become daytime again. The next command is slash tick. Slash tick can freeze and unfreeze time. For example, if I do slash tick rate and then I do like 5, I can set the tick rate way slower. So right now I'm like moving very slow. But if I do tick rate or tick reset, or I mean tick rate 20, then everything's back to normal. The next command is slash title. It puts a huge title screen. For example, if I do slash title, all players title hi, it'll type a huge message that says hi. The next command is slash tm. It sends a specific message to send the team just like the previous team message things. So if I do slash tm hi, I can send a message to my team. However, since I'm not in a team, I can't send a message to anyone. The next command is slash TP. Just like slash teleport, it teleports a player to a specific place. For example, if I do slash TP at self and then type 0, negative 60, 0, it'll teleport me to the coordinate I wanted. The next command is slash trigger. It sets a trigger to be activated. But since there's nothing to be triggered, I can't really do slash trigger. The next command is slash w. It's like slash tel and slash msg, where if I do slash w at self, and then I type a message, it'll whisper a message. The next command is slash weather. It sets the weather. For example, if I do slash set weather rain, then it'll start to rain. But if I do slash weather clear, it'll clear out the rain. The next command is slash whitelist. It manages the server whitelist. However, since I'm in a single player world, I can't do slash whitelist. The next command is slash world border. So if I do slash world border, set distance, for example, if I do a distance of 10 and just a random time like 10, then the world border will only be 10 blocks. So basically what it does is it manages the world border. The next command is slash XP. It's like slash experience, where if I do slash XP, add at self like 100 levels. It'll give me 100 levels. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know I'm not the best at Java commands, but if I made any mistakes, please tell me in the comments. And also, please like and subscribe. And mostly subscribe because I'm very close to 5,000 subscribers. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And make sure to share it if you enjoyed this. And yeah, bye guys.